everybody. I'm going to say it this time. Welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm your other host, Lex.
This is crazy.
We're a video game news podcast.
If this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, you probably think this is normal, but it's not.
It's not.
I feel kind of uncomfortable after doing that intro that way.
It's just like last time when we sat on the wrong sides of each other.
Yeah, that too.
Ugh. Anyway, it is April 7th.
2017.
And we talk about video game news and other stuff related to that industry. We broadcast live on Fridays from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on chipbit.net. Also, twitch.tv/DCTF podcast.
Yep, and we're all over social media. So go to a social media, look for Don't Copy That Floppy podcast or DCTF podcast.
You'll find us on there.
Probably find us.
We talk about a lot of articles during the show, and we will often post those articles throughout the week.
To Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, to
At least
Facebook.
some of the bigger ones.
But what are some of the articles we got this week, Dan?
We have a lot to talk about, actually. We have a lot of industry news about changes in companies, lawsuits levied at companies who won lawsuits, those sorts of things. We also have a lot of news about little game announcements or updates to various games that have come out recently that are pretty popular. Going to talk a little bit about that Persona 5, because that game came out and there's some drama. The drama's not that the game's bad, but there's some drama.
Yeah.
Nonetheless. And that's a good, I feel like that's a good summary of it. We'll round out the show with a look at games that are coming out, that just came out and that are coming out in the next week or so. Which will go back a little further because we didn't have a show last week, so we have a few more game releases we got to catch up on our talking about that. We are chatting on chipbit.net while we record this too, so if you want to participate in that chat, go right ahead. I'll check it every so often. So the first story we got is actually a little bit, it's from March 31st, so a little over a week old, about Mad Catz, everybody's favorite makers of that shitty controller your friend gave you when you were playing two-player games.
I was going to say, maybe everyone's least favorite controller manufacturer.
Unless you play fighting games and need a good fight stick.
Oh, yeah, they do nice fight sticks.
Actually made very nice arcade sticks. And I think they made some other okay stuff, too, but none of it was like controllers and memory cards for gaming systems.
Yeah, although if you're a real hardcore fighting game fan, you make your own fight stick.
Yeah, but Mad Catz makes the parts
as well. Gotta get those buttons.
You gotta get the buttons. Gotta get the buttons.
Gotta have that nice click action.
So Mad Catz, as of the 31st, had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the United States. As of the 30th, they had shut down their assets, shut down and begun to sell off their assets, with proceeds going to their lenders. This means that Chapter 7 bankruptcy means they don't intend to reorganize and are instead liquidating and vacating their board of directors and officers. So this isn't like they're in trouble financially and filed for bankruptcy. This is like the company is dissolved.
Yes.
They're done.
Now, they had been around since 1989.
Yep.
Which makes sense because during the 90s, especially the late 90s, this is when I first heard about this company, because it seemed like during the early 3D console era, and maybe the next generation too a little bit, is when you saw a lot of these third-party controllers come on the scene and people using them, and they were just all awful.
Yeah, I don't think that they really existed back in like the Super Nintendo era as much.
Yeah, I don't remember any of them from back then. No, actually, that's not true. Sega Genesis had a lot of third-party controllers that had like the turbo buttons and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know PS1 had a lot lot of them too.
Yeah,
that's where it started, but like Nintendo consoles typically don't.
Well, the N64 I remember had them.
Did they?
Yeah, because I remember having to use them. And
I know the GameCube had a bunch.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And the original Xbox.
Yeah.
But it was funny because they were all horrible. They were all consistently horrible.
They would break immediately.
Yeah. And I think because of that, you had a whole generation of gamers growing up being like, we don't want to buy any third-party controllers ever. We will buy them from the companies. And that combined with the fact that I think controllers became more accessible in further console generations, just probably hurt Mad Catz sales a lot, in which I don't have a lot of sympathy because, like, they made really bad products.
And it's a shame, too, because, like, as we said, the arcade sticks they manufacture are quite good.
Yeah, well, so they stuck around until now because of the arcade sticks, and also because they made all the Rock Band controllers.
Right, but nobody cares about those games anymore.
Not anymore, no, not Rock Band. Apparently, the hope was the company would have sort of rebounded after the release of Rock Band 4 in 2015, which was their big attempt to sort of revitalize the Rock Band franchise, which at the time we said wasn't going to work because people still don't care about Rock Band. And guess what happened?
Oh, what a shock. Didn't work.
It didn't work because people still don't care about Rock Band.
Mad Catz, back in February last year, in 2016, they laid off over a third of their employees. So this isn't a huge surprise, but oh well.
I mean, it's. I get that if they were making third-party controllers for, you know, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and were making a decent controller that was cheap, sure. Right. But A, they're probably not making a decent controller, and B, it's just cheap. Like, controllers are cheaper now than they used to be, I think, comparatively. But I feel like it's
like, you mean, like, relatively speaking?
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel like I can find really good deals on, like, first-party controllers if I look hard enough through Amazon.
Yeah, maybe if you look around, I guess. Right? But I don't know. Well, R.I.P. and pepperonis, Mad Catz. Meanwhile, Blizzard Entertainment won an $8 million judgment against an Overwatch cheat manufacturer.
Oh.
Yeah. So, this German-based... I think we talked about these guys last year a bit. That there's this big German company that made cheats for a bunch of Blizzard games. Like, they would make cheat programs and hack programs and things like that. And the company's called Bossland, and they have now been ordered to pay Blizzard $8.6 million for 42,818 counts of copyright infringement.
Oh, okay.
So it seems like they have things that are, like, for botting... Hearthstone, like, bots and things like that, as well as Overwatch, like, aim bots and things of that sort. They brought this suit against Bossland back, like, a little over a month after Overwatch launched. So this has been in the courts for a while now, and I, for one, am happy that this company has to pay Blizzard all that money, because screw them. They're just selling products that ruin the games for a ton of people.
Oh, this is interesting. Bossland's CEO elected not to defend the case in the United States, but would rather contest the judgment after it was entered. So, that doesn't seem like you had no chance to win that case at all.
Yeah. Well, go figure, right?
Yeah. Man, I hope that... Because, I remember when we were talking, maybe not this company in particular, but we were talking about people charging for bot stuff.
Yeah, for cheats.
And how silly that was.
Yeah.
But, man, if they got that, if they made that amount of money, I mean, they don't deserve it.
No.
Blizzard should have it. But, man... If they made that amount of money, that is a lucrative business model. And it's good that a case like this has happened and that it is that huge dollar amount, because it will definitely act as a deterrent for other companies.
Yeah. It just shows to show you there's a lot of people who just don't actually want to play the video game.
No, because they just want to get all those skins and whatever else you get.
Cool.
Yeah.
Valve is going to make big changes to Steam in relation to all these shitty games that have been flooding their marketplace.
Yay!
And we talked about this a few weeks ago, I feel like, maybe a couple months ago, that there was that Valve was aware of this big problem with, like, shovelware being thrown up on Steam, especially in the past year, and they said they were going to work to do something about it. So here we go!
So in an article from Kotaku from Monday, what was the date? Monday. I don't even remember anymore. It's the 7th today, right?
Monday was the 3rd.
It was the 3rd. Oh,
I remember that because Persona came out on the 4th. The day after Monday.
Thank goodness you have that frame of reference.
Yes.
But yeah, so in an article about that, they talk about how Valve invited several YouTube streamers.
Just 2, I thought.
No, there was a third one.
Was there?
Oh, yeah.
This article only mentions Total Biscuit and Jim Sterling.
Okay, so when I watched the Total Biscuit and Jim Sterling videos, they mentioned a third person, but it wasn't a person that I've, heard of.
I must say I really like that they call him John Total Biscuit Bain, but for Jim Sterling, they call him Jim Sterling.
What? It's just his name.
The same name.
But yeah, so they invited them to their offices in Seattle. Is that where they're located?
Yeah.
I don't know where they're located. And they talked about this topic.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because they then sent those guys back home and they were like, yeah, I mean, you could talk about what we discussed in the meeting.
Yeah.
None of this is like an NDA.
It is to bear in mind, though, that this is secondhand information.
Yes.
This is stuff we're getting from them and not from Steam itself.
And the YouTubers were very quick to point out in their videos that this is stuff that Valve was saying is in the works. So it is their preliminary ideas.
So who knows what's actually going to make it through in the end.
Yeah. And if you want a full breakdown of those things, there are Jim Sterling obviously did a video.
There's quite a lot too.
Total Biscuit did a video. I think Total Biscuit's is an hour. Jim Sterling's might just only be 20 minutes, but they break down everything. So if you want all the deets, check out those videos.
One of the things they did talk about, though, is something we've talked about already on the show, which is the idea of the new Steam Direct service that involves you having to pay to put your game up on the server.
Yeah, they talked about that.
So that's still an idea that they're working with, clearly.
And trying to figure out the numbers. They actually talked about, or I think it was Jim Sterling mentioned that apparently they said that the feed, because remember how originally when they were talking about that pay system, they were saying they were talking to developers to get feedback on what developers thought would be a good monetary number to set. And they said, apparently in this meeting with Sterling and Total Biscuit, they said to them, well, most of those developers, they wanted the number lower. But a couple of them, especially the developers who have a lot of money, like the big developers, wanted the number to be astronomically high.
Yeah, because then they have less competition.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's not...
That's really douchey. But it's, from a business standpoint, it makes sense.
But I like how the people just, we're just joking about that with them. And they're like, yeah, you can tell people about this, it's fine. Yeah. They're trying to find ways to overhaul the system. The monetary thing is something they're working on.
New organizational systems as well to make it easier to find good games, like having people be able to make top 10 lists. So then it filters out the crappy stuff that's getting bad reviews.
Yeah, so it seems like one of the ways they're trying to go with this, that I don't know if it's actually a good strategy, but it's sort of an interesting strategy, is they're sort of not coming from a place that they want to restrict the games in a significant way that are coming up on there. But what they want to do is have all those games on there, but just make it so that the games that really suck and that are obviously asset flip type games get so little exposure on the site that they might as well not be up there.
Right.
And that's one of those things that if it works could be great, but there's so much risk involved there for an earnestly made indie game that just can never find an audience because it can't get exposure.
Right.
And that would suck.
Yeah.
But one of the ways they're trying to make this all work is instead of them doing the curating, they're trying to expand this curator system, which is something that when they introduced, we reported on it. And then we never talked about it again because no one ever talked about it again because it was not well implemented. The curator system, for those who don't know, is this whole thing where if you're just a page, because I think we're technically a curator on there.
Yeah, we are.
If you're just a page on Steam, you can be a curator and you can just have
a gallery of games,
so
to speak.
And then if someone follows you, they see your gallery of games.
Yes.
And I think the only way that those sort is the newest game that you've added. Or there might be another search function, I'm not sure. But if if you don't follow that person, you never see their recommendations. There's nothing for because Total Biscuit talks about this a lot in his video. He used the curator system a lot, but a lot of people follow him, so it makes sense. Right. But if you're like us, no one's gonna notice your curation.
So even if we put up cool indie games that we think should get noticed, there's not going to be that groundswell for it.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And a lot of people that hadn't heard, and because Total Biscuit's list is really great, but if a lot of people went to his list and were like, okay, well, I like a certain kind of games, I can't filter this list by that kind of game.
A good example of this, actually, I think, is Hollow Knight, that just came out recently. Mm-hmm. Came out at the end of February. That game's fantastic. And the reviews that it's gotten have been really good overall. But when that game came out, no professional review sites reviewed it. It took forever for it to get like a Metacritic score because there weren't enough professional. You only need 4 professional reviews.
Oh no.
There weren't enough for weeks after the game came out. It's crazy. And it's a shame because that game is fantastic. It's incredibly polished. It's tons of content for $15. Like, it's a great game. And it was only like at the beginning of, or at the, like, towards the end of March that it started getting a lot more, like, noticed. I know Destructoid put up a review of it, like, around March 20th or something. And I was like, oh, Destructoid actually reviewed it. And the guy who reviewed it on Destructoid gave it a perfect 10. He was just like, yeah, 10 out of 10. Everybody should be playing this freaking game. And it's like, a game is that good. And that game is not done as well as it should, given its, like, status. And it's just because it didn't get noticed. It had a small Kickstarter. It just made enough money to get through with some stretch goals. And then, 2 years, actually closer to 3 years later, it, like, makes it out the door. And it came out, but everybody was just kind of like, some people were like, oh, cool, the small number of Kickstarter backers grabbed it. I grabbed it. But it did not have a big, boisterous release. Nobody was talking about it. No streamers or big Let's Players were doing it. Like, so that happens with a lot of good games, I'm sure. Like,
and one of the ways, so one of the things they want to do, or they're talking about doing with the curator thing, to make it so that when someone finds a game that they really like, mm-hmm. that other people will notice that, is it will be like, okay, well, the more people that are curating this game, the more likely it's going to show up on someone's exploration page.
Yeah.
That's something they're thinking about. Also, when you were talking about sort of revamping the tag system, there's a whole thing where when you go to your exploration page, it should look different than everybody else's, because the system has figured out what kind of games you play based on your library.
And they want to provide the information to you of why you're being shown what you're being shown.
Yes.
As well.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be this whole, like, drop-down.
It seems like they want a lot of transparency for it.
Yeah, so
like
how,
the statistics.
Yeah, like how all the metadata is going.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
There was also a thing that is something that sounds really good, but if it's not handled well, could be horrible. It's the last thing I'm going to say about the story.
Yeah.
But it's...
got a lot to cover.
Yeah. It's this idea that they were talking about where you can review a game and sort of try to boost its profile, and if it's a game you wouldn't normally play, or it's an indie game or something like that, assuming that you're a curator or you're some sort of established person in the community, you can be able to maybe get paid to do that, or be able to effectively get the game for free, because it's like you buy the game, and then if you really didn't like it, you can get a no-strings-attached refund within a week. So you can get sort of like one free game a week to try to endorse. Cool. Yeah, it's one of the things, again, that, like, there's a lot of, if they don't implement it just right, there's a lot of risk of abuse.
Yes. Well, we'll see.
Games journalism.
I mean, their other refund policy works pretty well.
It did. So I think that could be a way to go that'll work out well.
Hopefully they do good. So, article from Engadget from the 2nd of April. About a soccer icon, I guess, what's his name? Maradona? Diego Maradona. He is in Konami's game Pro Evolution Soccer 2017, but apparently he is not happy and is allegedly threatening to sue Konami because they supposedly did not use his likeness with permission in this game.
So they put him in the game with all those other athletes, and he was just like, whoa, you guys, I didn't say you could do that.
You could do that. And now this gets into some stuff about how, like, video game licenses for athletes have been a touchy subject for a long time, because there's a lot going on about it. because it's like faces, names, jersey numbers, tattoos, and things like that. There's a lot of like gray area legally as far as like representing these actual people in a video game form. They say in this article even that it's possible Konami thought they were abiding by rules, and didn't get his full permission, or maybe it's a misunderstanding or something. But as of right now, Konami is just saying, no, we're using it appropriately. We have the license and the contract, and this is how it works. But I hope that they're not, and that this guy sues them and fucks them up real bad.
Yeah.
Because fuck Konami. I think you posted this to our Facebook with the caption, Konami being bad at business? What? Or something along those lines. Remember Metal Gear Survive? That's gonna come out.
Ugh.
No one cares.
No one cares. No, I think that there's one of two options with this. Either they got some sort of blanket license and it is some sort of legal gray area, and they thought that it covered him, but he's like, or like he's exempt from it in some weird way that they couldn't have foreseen because he's like in a different income bracket from the other athletes that were involved. Yeah. Maybe something like that. Or they just used him and didn't care.
Yeah.
Which also sounds like them. Like, that sounds more like them. That they were just like, whatever, we don't care, we'll just do it.
Yeah. No one will know.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Video games don't matter.
Video games don't matter. It's all about that sweet, sweet pachinko.
Sweet pachinko.
So yeah, Konami's putting out a new Castlevania soon.
Which makes you just more excited that they're being sued.
Yep. Yep, it's a Lords of Shadow Castlevania game that is a pachinko slot machine. The trailer for it is insulting because it really looks like they're making a new Castlevania because like Bloodstained is coming out and you're like, oh, they're going to try and compete because they know Bloodstained is basically trying to muscle in.
Yeah.
But then it's like, nah, it's just a patchy slot machine.
Well, it's also I think it's also funny because they would totally be the company that would try to put out something to compete with like Bloodstained, but I think they're not going to do that until Bloodstained actually comes out and does super well.
I'm not going to play this trailer, by the way, because Konami will copyright strike us.
Oh, totally.
100%. They're assholes.
But they're going to get sued and it's going to be great.
Thank
okay?
God. I hope so.
But yeah, no, I think that because they are so not forward thinking, I almost guarantee you that within 6 months to a year, we're going to be doing a story where we talk about how, because of Bloodstained's amazing sales, Konami has decided to make a Castlevania, but it's like a multiplayer game and you shoot zombies in it.
Oh god. Oh no. Well, there is that Netflix show coming out.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
Point. I think it's supposed to be later this year, too, actually.
Can't wait.
I'm actually really curious what they're going to do with that.
Yeah, that sounds really...
I feel like it's going to be awful.
Yeah, it could be awful, or it could be like just a very different take that isn't like Castlevania, but it's still kind of cool.
You can hold out hope, though, that it's somehow like this really excellently done, like, somehow faithful adaptation.
Yeah, somehow.
Somehow? Like...
Better have that whip.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But speaking of companies being stuck in the past and not forward-thinking...
A company we didn't expect that from.
No, not at all. Atlas, the producers, and I mean, they made the game, makers of Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, are threatening people who stream too much of Persona 5 with copyright strikes and video takedowns and like C&Ds. Basically, from on the day the game came out, Atlas USA posted and said that they had gotten word from Atlas Japan, who was like the main branch of the company, the people really in charge. It basically said, hey, tell all the streamers and Let's Players out there that if they do any of this game... So the game, there's an in-game calendar. You progress through a calendar year as the game is played. And if you stream past July 7th on the in-game calendar, you will have your videos taken down and be hit with copyright claims and things like that. So, I mean, it's a big game. It's a long game. That's actually quite a lot of content to get through to even get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, when people do Let's Plays or streams of games like this, they do the whole thing. I streamed the end of Zelda earlier this week, and I talked on that stream about how I was thinking about streaming all of Persona 5 while I played it. And then the next day, when Persona 5 showed up, I looked at the internet, and I saw this and was like, well, guess I'm not doing that.
Well, I think that actually speaks to my major question about this, which is, how enforceable is this?
That's a good question.
Because they can issue, like, if you put it on YouTube, they can certainly issue a copyright takedown.
Yeah.
But then you can just be like, YouTube, I'm just doing this. This is just as a Let's Play video. That should be allowed. And then YouTube should probably be like, oh yeah, those are allowed.
The note that Atlas USA posted for streamers says, this being a Japanese title with a single playthrough story means our masters in Japan are very wary about it.
Our masters in Japan.
Sharing is currently blocked through the native PS4 UI, which is true. Whenever I get a trophy in this game, a little screenshot cannot be taken warning comes up and everything. Like, you can't stream or screenshot this game from your system, like most things. However, if you do plan on streaming, video guidelines above apply, except length. If you decide to stream past 7.7, I highly recommend not doing this. You have been warned. You do so at the risk of being issued a content ID claim or worse, a channel strike or account suspension. That being said, Persona 5 is a super special case for us, and we're in ongoing discussion on how our policies may evolve in the future. So, Atlas USA's post about this is basically like, hey, we're not the ones doing this, but don't do it. It seems like them trying to give fair warning to people because they don't want people's channels to get fucked up.
Yeah.
Which is nice of them, actually. Because they didn't dance around it in a PR way. They were just like, no, don't do it.
Because our masters in Japan will come after you.
Our Japanese lords, the shogun of Atlas, will come after you. And now, I'm in a weird place with this problem. Because on the one hand, I see where they're coming from. Because Persona 5, hotly anticipated game. Persona 4 came out in 2008. So this game's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
As they said, it has a single playthrough story. Nothing, things change on your second playthrough, but nothing major. The main story remains the same. So you see that story, you've seen the story. It's not a branching path thing. It's not an open world thing like Zelda. It's you go through a story. Very dialogue heavy, very character development heavy, very narrative heavy. So they are seeing this, in my opinion, as why would people buy the game for the story, which is one of its big selling points, if they could just watch the story in a stream? Which I think is a fair thing, because in that sense, it's this might hurt your sales, the fact that Let's Plays are such a thing now. Compared to when, Persona 4 came out. And that was, a brand new, even idea, really, back then. They don't want it to hurt the sales of their game, which is completely fair. I get that, especially due to the nature of the title. But at the same time, if people want to fuck up they claim that it's all for, avoiding spoilers and stuff. If people want to spoil themselves on the fucking game, they've spoiled themselves on the fucking game already because it's been out in Japan since September.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been out a while.
So, at the very least, please don't, pretend that this is out of concern for the players when it is clearly out of concern for you from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
At least be honest about that. And beyond that point, like you said, it's not forward-thinking. Whether companies like it or not, Let's Plays and game streaming and stuff are a big thing now. And that's not going to change. And I think you're only going to hurt your image and your reputation by enforcing these archaic ideas on people and saying you can't share your experience with this game with anyone else.
It's shocking to me because we see this with other Japanese companies, namely Nintendo,
yeah,
doing stuff like this, and
Nintendo's
it generates...
been cool with people streaming Zelda and stuff, though.
Not with us.
Huh?
We got to shoot a bunch of takedowns on, on our video.
Shit.
Yeah,
that's weird because tons of people are streaming that game.
It's Nintendo.
Yeah,
but no, but when they do that, when Nintendo does stuff like that, when other Japanese companies do stuff like that, and not that Western companies don't do it too, but it seems like Japanese companies do it more so.
Yeah,
it generates really bad PR for them,
and I don't think they understand.
Yeah,
why. And
Atlas has been a more forward-thinking company out of Japan for a long time. So the fact that they're going backwards on this issue, also that they just don't see what happens when other companies do this.
Yeah.
Is baffling to me.
Yeah, it's stupid. In spite of that, I mean, I'm not going to be streaming it, but in spite of that, especially now that I'm in, like, May in the game, a lot of streamers are just doing it anyway.
Oh, well, that's the other component of this. When
Yeah.
you say you can't do something like that, it's just going to make people want to do it.
I want to bring up my favorite part of all of this, and that's the fact that the characters in this game take on the role of phantom thieves to fight back against the unfair rules that society imposes on young people.
It's pretty good.
So I feel like the irony is lost on the people in charge of Atlas, but it's definitely not on me. The fact that all these young streamers are coming out and being like, fuck the establishment, and streaming Persona 5 anyway is perfect.
Yep.
In a way, you couldn't have a better, like, meta-narrative for the release of your video game in the real world. So I say good for those streamers, like, fight the good fight. Like, people are naming their stream stuff like, don't ban me, Papa Atlas, while they play the game. Just pretty funny. But yeah, I hope people just keep pushing back against it, and I hope that they decide to rescind this, because the other thing I have a problem with it is they say, like, just don't do it. Don't stream past July 7th. Why is that? Does that mean you can never ever do that?
That's the thing. After the first month of sales or whatever, after sales,
let's say month or two of sales.
Yeah, after sales naturally die down when they would have died down, it would make no sense to keep this policy.
And
in
most
place.
people who are gonna really want to play the game and get through the story will have gotten through the story.
Yeah.
By that point.
So I assume that they'll take that down by then.
You assume, but we don't know that.
We don't know.
If this announcement had come with a, like, you cannot stream the game past July 7th until the end of April.
Yeah, if they just put a date on it.
Once we hit May 2017, you can go however far you want.
People would still be annoyed, but they'd be less annoyed.
They'd be substantially less annoyed, I think. But this is just an ultimatum, nope, can't do it. It's pretty crazy. And, I'm not that far in the game. I don't know if there's some big crazy twists I don't want to spoil for myself, but if people want to spoil it, they could spoil it. I'm not gonna.
People could just go and translate a Japanese forum and spoil it for themselves.
And I think people already have.
Yeah.
All the spoilers have been out on the internet for months. Who they fooling? On the other hand, and I think, unfortunately...
how much Persona 5 news do we have?
This is the last one. Atlas can be like, oh, it's gonna hurt game sales, but it's clearly not! Because everyone's buying the damn game!
Sales are through the roof.
The shipments are eclipsing 1.5 million. Which, given context, the only other Persona game that reached over 1 million worldwide sales, lifetime sales so far, is Persona 4 Golden. And 5 has already hit 1.5 million shipped in, its first week. So... Significantly more for lifetime sales for this, no question.
Well, good for them, because although I do not agree with some of their business practices, apparently...
They make a damn good video game.
They make a great video game. They make a lot of really good video games.
They do. And from what I have played of Persona 5, that game is fan-freaking-tastic. It oozes quality from, every single aspect of it.
Now, if only Platinum can have a game like this.
A game like this, yeah. Even if you're pissed at Atlas and don't want to give them your money, just give them your money anyway and buy the damn game, because it's worth playing. It's worth experiencing for yourself too, because if you play through it yourself and you're making all your own choices through it feels much more personal than watching somebody else play it. But I do understand watching other people play story-heavy games like this, because you want to see their reactions to certain parts of the story.
Yeah, sure.
And things like that. There's a certain, fun camaraderie about it, of oh, I wonder how they're going to react to that. I know the best friends, who I watch a lot of the Let's Plays of, were planning a full Let's Play of Persona 5 until
they got the news until
this news came down, and now they just put up a 3-parter playthrough of it at the beginning of the game, because they're we're not going to do anymore, because we're not going to do a neutered Let's Play of the game.
Yeah.
But For Honor's not doing so good.
Yeah, Persona might be doing great, but For Honor not so much.
It's not on Steam.
Ugh. As we found out on April 4th, For Honor is really getting blasted with negative reviews.
Everybody started playing Persona and realized For Honor didn't have enough waifus in it.
Exactly. For Honor would probably be doing great if it just had more waifus.
Yeah. Listen, man, I'm gonna throw this out there. Every single game does better if there's waifus in it. Mm-hmm. It's an element you can add to a game, and it will inevitably make it sell better.
TV shows too.
Everything.
Everything.
Really. Yeah, waifus make people want things.
So when For Honor first came out, people largely thought it was good.
Yeah.
But its Steam, as I recall, its Steam reviews were always sort of in the mixed area or like slightly positive.
After 2 months of it, 2 months after its release, it was and 16,000 reviews later, it became like mixed, pretty much. Period.
And within the last few days, it has gone to mostly negative.
Oh shit!
So the community is really turning on this game. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is people are just leaving the game, well, I guess that's more of a consequence of it. But it's lost a lot of its player base. But and I think we reported on this when it first came out, they do this thing with their servers, which is like horrible and annoying.
Peer-to-peer?
Yeah, peer-to-peer servers. So it's not the company hosting the servers, it's whoever starts the game. So if they got a bad internet connection, guess what? You're not going to play a smooth game.
I did hear someone make an argument for the peer-to-peer servers in this game, for when you're doing 1-on-1 and 2v2 at least, that it plays basically like a fighting game, so you want there to be as little input lag as possible.
Yeah.
And it provided both members of the peer-to-peer connection have a good connection. That's the best way to have it for like a fighting game type scenario where you want no lag. But from what we've heard, For Honor's servers aren't that great. Like it's not performing that well most of the time.
They had also been there had been this whole controversy where they had in-game currency, and then they had items that you could buy. You could either buy them with in-game currency or you could buy them with real money.
You know how it goes.
Microtransactions. Yeah. Now, that would all be well and good if it was done in a model like successful game, like Blizzard games, like Overwatch or Hearthstone.
Yeah.
But instead what they did was they made the in-game currency that you can sort of like quest for or whatever extremely hard to accumulate and obtain. Right. So it super disincentivized you from doing that and was basically like, yeah, if you want these things, you pretty much just have to pay for them.
And I guess Ubisoft did increase the earning rate of that, but it was too little too late.
Yeah, see that there are people initially liked the gameplay, but then they noticed all these problems and brought them to Ubisoft's attention, and Ubisoft has sort of like piecemeal tried to fix them a little at a time.
Yeah.
And it hasn't they weren't able to do that before the players flocked from the game.
Yeah.
So now there was just recently a blackout that was called for the game where a bunch of people, I think it was on Reddit, were basically like, hey, I can't remember which feature of the game that they were really upset about, but they were like, listen, it's not cool. I think it was like content had been removed from the game. And they were like, hey, it's not cool. This shouldn't be happening. We're not going to play the game for an entire day. Like all these people, the core fans on the Reddit, were not going to play for a whole day. And
like protest.
Yeah, and immediately Ubisoft was like, yeah, no, here's the content back. Please don't all leave for an entire day because our numbers are already hurting. So they've been having a lot of trouble with that. It just seems to continue to go downhill. So, For Honor might not be able. We don't know. They're in that weird state right now where they might rebound, depending on what the company does, or they'll just sink into obscurity.
Yep. Eurogamer has an article from the 6th
about the
new Xbox.
Project Scorpio. They revealed it this week.
We got specs.
So many specs. Oh yeah, look at those. They got comparisons. So I don't know what some of this means because I am not a super tech wizard.
Teraflops.
But I do know that this has a substantial amount more RAM than even the PS4 Pro.
Yep.
Which is certainly good.
Yep.
It's got better memory bandwidth, although I don't really know how that affects things because I'm not super up on that stuff. Same size hard drive, which is a terabyte, which is what we were all expecting.
Yep.
It's got like a 4K Blu-ray player, which, I mean, they're really pushing 4K because they think everyone's going to have 4K TVs. I still think that's premature.
Yeah.
But because they assume this console's going to be in people's homes for the next 5 years, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So although I do not know for certain, I think with this we're going to see less of the 4K up-resing that we see in the PlayStation models.
So, you know what? I don't like this.
You don't like it?
I don't like it because... So, it's way more powerful... Here's the thing. It's way more powerful than the Xbone. It's way more powerful than the PS4 Pro. Based on specs.
Yeah.
It's a significant boost in power. Even compared to the PS4 Pro compared to the regular PS4, I think it's a more significant boost in power.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
To me is shitty. Because Sony already kind of felt like kind of made a misstep with the PS4 Pro because it's like, here's the better version of the console you just bought a couple years ago. Here's the better one, but it's not too much better. So, like, don't get mad. It's not too much better. If you have just the old one, you'll be okay. But you could get the new one.
If you want to use those reality goggles, you got a new one.
It's a little bit better. But this seems less like that and more like, fuck the old Xbox. This is the new Xbox.
Yes.
This is a significant step up in hardware. Games are going to be made for this that will run like shit on the basic Xbox One. Because the bigger a gap you're going to get in tech, the less you're going to be able to say games run the same on both systems.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time we have seen this in the console wars, in the console generations, where we have gotten this weird half step. Instead of just
This is the first time I feel like we've gotten it like full on.
Yeah. Because there's been slim versions of different consoles, and sometimes those have slightly different performance.
And the PS4 Pro is also kind of like a step up, but it's not like a full half step up.
Yeah. But it's just so weird because they don't want to just start working on the new generation. They want this weird in between, and I don't like it. I guess it's kind of worked out for them so far because the PS4 Pro has done pretty well.
For me personally, I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it sets kind of a bad precedent going forward.
It's like the yearly installments of big AAA titles. When do we hit the point where we're getting a new console every 2 years?
Oof. Now, one of the things that Mr. Philip Spencer, that's the name of the guy, had initially talked about when he was talking about Scorpio was this idea that it would be upgradable, more like a desktop PC, which I actually really liked the idea of because I think that's probably, if you want to have something that's truly sustainable, that's probably a good way to go. Yeah. But then when the specs were released, we found out that's totally not the case. Yeah. There is nothing upgradable about this.
Yeah. And this is like a big improvement from the Xbox One.
Definitely.
So, I don't know. Even from the Xbox One S. So,
I forgot about that.
Speaking of improvements, Breath of the Wild actually got a patch on the 31st of March.
Oh, good for them.
The patch, the only thing in the patch notes was various changes were made to present a more pleasant gaming experience.
Was that seriously all
that
they
was,
said in the
that
patch
was
notes?
The patch notes sent by Nintendo. I shit you not.
Oh, Nintendo.
But at least those patch notes were true.
Yeah.
Because it was patched for both the Wii U and the Switch version of the game that vastly improved the performance issues.
Oh, the frame rate stuff. Yep. Yeah, I remember reading about this.
Frame rates and freezing issues. Not like full freezes, but there'd be weird, like, when physics would ragdoll, there'd be weird, like, hiccups where the game would freeze for a second or two. And it fixed the majority of those.
Well, that's good, because I remember when we were talking about those frame rate issues, specifically like docked versus undocked on the Switch.
On the Switch, at least.
We were really worried, or I guess I was really worried, because I was like, oh man, what if this isn't a problem with the software? What if this is a problem with the hardware?
Yeah.
Because then you're launching...
But seemingly it's not.
Yeah, it was a problem with software, they fixed it.
Yeah, it wasn't even a problem with the on the Wii U. They fixed it on the Wii U, too.
Thank goodness.
And I think after this patch, though, the Switch version actually does, like, definitively run better than the Wii U version.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So that's good for them, too.
It turns out on the more powerful system, it runs better now.
Now it actually runs better. Now we can say with certainty. Good. But it improved I noticed a big improvement on my Wii U playing of that game. Man, I finished that game by the skin of my teeth before Persona 4 came out. Oh, I cut it close.
You know, we have another story about updates that if you wanted to skip to.
We do.
Because I know I was going to forget about it.
Yeah, me too. Mass Effect Andromeda also got a patch to make the people look less like monsters.
It kind of worked.
It addressed one of my biggest problems, which was that the eyes were dead. And it added lighting to the eyes that was there in Mass Effect 1 to make them look passable again.
Yes.
I saw a great article. I wish I could remember where it was posted. It might have been Kotaku or Polygon. That was basically like, big patch comes out for Mass Effect Andromeda. Fans and customers are still pissed off that they weren't told they were buying an early access game.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, ice burn.
Nice.
Which I agree with.
No, it's
what the crap?
Yeah, there's definitely was a huge lack of polish, and we always make fun of the facial stuff. Yeah. But it wasn't just that.
No.
I read a lot of different articles and saw a lot of different gameplay clips.
The writing's not up to snuff with the other games even.
Well, not even that as well, because that's one of those things that you could argue is subjective.
No, not in this case. I will fight you against that.
Okay. But what I'm saying is there were things where people's saves were being deleted.
Yeah.
There was lots of clipping. There were instances where people would load in T-frames, which is something that we're used to seeing in Sonic games, but not really in Mass Effect games.
No, not typically.
So there were some game-breaking and some glitches that were just really, really negatively impacted your enjoyment of the game. And those were the kind of things that, I can have a good laugh about the faces.
Yep.
But the other stuff would stop me from playing.
Crippling bugs.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, if they had just taken a couple extra months on this game,
polish it up,
they probably would have been fine.
So now I gotta go on a short tangent.
We don't have time for tangents.
We have a short tangent. Mass Effect is a universe. You play the first 3 games. There's a giant compendium of information about how everything in the Mass Effect universe works.
Yes.
Science, technology, all given, pretty believable scientific explanations of how the technology works, how everything functions, whatever. It's all in there. It's canon. It's official lore in the series. Mass Effect Andromeda ignores a shitload of that stuff to tell a story. They basically just say, nope, this doesn't work this way anymore, this doesn't exist anymore, because if it did, we'd have to write around it, and we're not good enough to do that.
But they're in a new galaxy now.
Yeah, tell me all about it.
Yep.
This man's leg is broken. You need to carry him with you. You can't just put the metagel that's existed in the series since Mass Effect 1 on his leg to heal him, because that's literally what it was designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad writing. It's creating problems through ignoring actual things that have been established.
Continuity. It's important.
It's
but yeah,
can't patch that.
So all those bugs we were talking about, many of them were fixed. There was a little bullet point of all the different things.
Yeah.
That talks about collision issues, bugs where music or voiceover wouldn't play. The squad AI stuff was fixed. There was also a couple of quality of life changes that were what was it? There was something in here. You could skip autopilot sequences in the galaxy map, which is one of the things that I had also read about briefly. Where
what is it? What is that?
That it's a thing where you're moving through from planet to planet on the galaxy map, and you're not actually, your ship is just going from A to B, but you have to watch the sequence.
Oh.
And it's just what, can I just skip this so I can get back to the game, to playing the game? So they added an option for that, and I'm like, that's good.
I mean,
but
I guess if it wasn't hiding a loading screen, then...
Yeah. But yeah, there's fast travel. There were issues with that. That was fixed.
Woof.
Fixed issue where Ryder can become stuck in the start of the biotic charge pose.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing weird about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they fixed a lot of bugs in this, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where, like, hey, your game probably should have released without these problems.
Yes.
But thanks for fixing them.
I guess.
BioWare?
Mm-hmm.
BioWare, you better. This better be a one-time hiccup for you.
Time to patch that script.
Because I really don't want to see future game releases having these problems.
Wah, wah, wah. Fair where fair is, there are some script issues in Persona 5 with the localization. But
I believe it, yeah.
But
totally.
with that sheer amount of dialogue and whatever,
yeah.
that's going to happen. So Square Enix has said that they are going to be prioritizing the Nintendo Switch over Xbox Scorpio. Get fucked, Microsoft.
Yeah, because the Nintendo
Japanese
Switch
company decides to support Japanese company over Microsoft.
So that's definitely part of it. Let's not pretend that there isn't some bias going on here.
100%.
But I think another big part of this is that the Scorpio hasn't come out yet, and we don't know how well it's going to sell. And we do know that the Switch is selling like crazy.
Yeah. So Square Enix is like hopping on that bandwagon.
And unlike the Wii that sold like crazy, you can actually develop for the Switch.
Exactly. And Square Enix showed off some titles already at the showcase they did before the Switch released. So they were already kind of on board, but now they've said they're doubling down now that the sales have been good. So cool. GameStop's closing 150 stores, and as this article on the Christian Science Monitor says, GameStop closures, is this the end of brick and mortar video game shops?
No.
Sensationalized title?
No.
So 150 stores. How many GameStop stores are there in the United States?
I don't know, but I'm gonna guess thousands.
There are 7,500.
Oh. Huh. 150. Wow, that's a big decrease, huh?
It's a lot of stores, but they have a lot of stores.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised with the death of malls in America that they still have that many locations.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this isn't to say that there is not a greater trend for brick-and-mortar video game stores going away. Right. I think there totally is.
But I don't think this is like a sign of their imminent doom.
Yeah, this is not the nail in the coffin story, as the article title would lead you to believe.
GameStop has many underperforming stores, and this seems like them just culling the crappy stores out of their business, basically. These were all probably super low-performing stores for years, and they're just like, you know what, not worth having these ones anymore. A makeup artist. So there's all these stories, like the week before last. We didn't have our show, so we didn't talk about this. About how Emma Stone might be in Death Stranding because of these leaked images, which is that's kind of what that looks like. But apparently,
were they shooped?
They were shooped. A makeup artist made it.
Oh,
and people were fooled.
All right.
So it's not. She's not in Metal Gear Solid, or not in Death Stranding. She's not in Metal Gear Solid either.
No,
but she's also not in Death Stranding.
I mean, it'd be fine if she was in Death Stranding.
She is in Death Stranding.
You know what?
And this is just the elaborate ruse that Kojima.
Okay, Kojima would totally do that, or Kojima would see the story and be like, I should give Emma Stone's agent a call and see if she wants to be in this game I'm developing.
And that's what some people are thinking might happen now, is that it'll give Kojima the idea to actually try and get this to be a thing.
Because that would be great.
It would be cool.
Also, we need more female characters in that game, because right now I don't think we have any.
Kojima games usually not so great on female characters.
Yeah.
With one huge exception in the boss in Metal Gear Solid 3, who's fucking phenomenal. But other than that, not many, and usually when they show up, they're kind of highly sexualized. Yeah, but the boss isn't. The boss was a weird exception to how most of Metal Gear was.
Yeah.
I like the boss. Total War Warhammer 2 got announced
this week,
March 31st.
Some people were a little upset about this because apparently the Total War people had said
Creative Assembly.
Creative Assembly, that was their name.
Yeah.
When they were releasing Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 1, they were just like, hey, no, don't worry, guys. For those of our fans who like the historical games, we'll do another historical game before we do another Warhammer game.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do that. So people were a little salty on the internet about this announcement.
Yep.
I also think it's a little annoying because the way the Warhammer strategy games, not the Total War ones because we don't have any precedent for that, but for like the Dawn of War ones, the way they've usually worked is one gets released and then you get lots of expansions for it before you get another one. So they have a much longer shelf life. Whereas here they're just like, oh, there's now a sequel. Now we're going to have a sequel. Get ready for the sequel.
Yeah. This also, didn't that game just come out last year?
Yeah, it was very recently.
So this is weird. Like, why aren't they just releasing expansions for it or something?
That's what I just said, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was spacing out. I was checking articles that we should do or not do.
But, yeah. So people are upset.
Megaman Cartoon.
Ugh.
People are upset.
People are upset. And they should be. The Megaman cartoon that nobody wants.
So we saw art of him, like, last year, and it looked worse.
Yeah,
like,
this
definitely
does look better.
But I still don't like it.
Mm.
And the storyline is still terrible. I mean, not that Mega Man's like Shakespeare or anything.
No.
But it's like some kid, his name is Aki Light, and he fights in the high-tech Silicon Valley. He's a preteen robot boy. He spends half his time trying to be a typical robot boy, just a regular robot boy, and the other half living it up as a powerful fighter.
My life as a teenage robot.
Yep. The people who made Ben 10 are making it.
Oh.
The jury is out on its quality.
Yeah, I mean...
It's going to be on Cartoon Network.
Oh. See, I thought Disney when I saw this.
No.
Yeah, this is going to be bad.
It's probably going to be really bad.
Real bad.
really, really upsettingly bad. Yo, Yooka-Laylee. We got to talk. Gotta talk about Yooka-Laylee. The first thing we gotta talk about is that they made a rap song, like the DK rap, and apparently it's by the same person, and it's not as good.
Oh.
And it's not even like the lyrics of the song are stupid, because they should be. The song just feels forced. It doesn't feel as... The DK rap is stupid, but it's charming and earnest. This one feels kind of just like, hey, we're doing a song. Like, I listened to the whole thing and I was just kind of like, there's no passion in it. It feels very hollow. So if you want, you can look it up. It is I'm sure you can find it. Just search for, like, Yooka-Laylee rap. But we want to talk also, well, we're on the subject of Yooka-Laylee on this rap song, that the game's been getting reviewed preliminarily. It comes out on the 11th. And it's been getting pretty mixed reception from a lot of people.
Yeah, its Metacritic score is, I think, in the mid-60s right now, and it seems...
I thought it was in the 70s.
Oh, it might be in the 70s. I thought that... I may be misremembering. Right. But it seems like it is very polarizing. People either really like it or really don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that the people who do like it are the ones who are already the hardcore Banjo-Kazooie fans.
I'm sure those are the people who like it.
And they're just like, I just wanted another Banjo-Kazooie game. I don't actually care about the quality. I just wanted another Banjo-Kazooie game, and that's what I got, so I'm going to give it a good score.
Because the big complaints I've seen with it are that it plays it feels old.
Yeah, it feels super dated.
Yeah, in the way it plays, and also that it's too long.
See, I heard that too, and that surprises me, because you very rarely hear people being like, oh, this game is too long.
No, but a lot of people have been saying it overstays its welcome by, like, a significant amount of time, which is too bad to hear. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah. But it's,
I'm still probably going to pick it up and play it.
Yeah.
Because I want to build my own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that expensive a game, so...
That's true, so it's a little easier to swallow a loss if it is bad.
Yeah, like, whatever.
One thing I forgot to talk to you about at the beginning of the show, we have our fan-voted story for this week, which is a story about Breath of the Wild.
Oh, yeah! It's the Flying Machine.
The Flying Machine!
Let me see if I can dig this up. Yeah... So, basically, people figured out a thing in Breath of the Wild. There are these metal mine carts on Death Mountain that you can lift up with your magnet power and, like, move around, and you can put them on tracks and then use bombs to, like, propel them along the tracks. And it's neat. It's a little way to get around. It's fun. But some people figured out that if you put a box inside a minecart, it'll fit, like, right in the part where you're supposed to stand, and then you can use the magnet power, as you see in this picture, if you're watching our stream. You can use the magnet power on the minecart. You can stand on the box inside the minecart and then use the power on the minecart to lift it. And normally the game does not allow you to lift a metal object you're standing on. But since you're standing on the box and not the minecart, the game lets you lift the minecart. And then you can move the minecart around with your power, but you go with it. So you can actually just fly. You make like a hover cart with this magnet power, and you can go, like, really fast.
Please, Nintendo, do not patch this out.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. I would feel like they wouldn't, because they so clearly designed this game with the intent for players to experiment and come up with weird ways to get places and do things. That, like, I'd be very upset if they decided to get rid of this, because it feels like it goes against the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
With how easily you can break shrine puzzles and, like, solve them in completely unorthodox ways and, like, bypass puzzles. And you can do all that stuff, but it feels like you can do all that stuff by design.
Yeah.
It would be weird for them to get rid of this. I do not think it is a glitch.
So, amazing flying machine. If you have Breath of the Wild, you haven't tried it yet, you should.
I actually didn't try it out. I should.
We're gonna have to do that after the show, real quick.
I'm not hooking up my Wii U. I got Persona to play.
Oh, god damn it.
I'm right in the middle of the thing. I haven't even saved yet. There's art happening. Okay, games. What games came out?
Oh, games that came out last week. I'm
Attack on Titan: Escape from Certain Death on the 3DS. Thimbleweed Park. That's a point-and-click adventure game.
Oh,
that got some mentioning a while ago. Muso Stars. Who cares? On the 4th, the big release was Parappa the Rapper Remastered on the PS4, which has gotten mediocre reviews because, shocking, Parappa the Rapper is like not that great a game.
It's just there's a lot of it's got a cult following.
It was a big deal when it came out because it was so different, but it's only like an hour long, and it's not that good. But Persona 5 came out.
This game called Drawn to Death came out.
Oh yeah,
and man, that game looks awful.
I don't like that art style.
It's really bad.
I 100% understand what they were going for with it. But it just looks muddy and dirty and bad.
For those who haven't seen it, look it up because it's worth just, like, seeing it.
I think they had a really cool idea for the art style.
Because the idea for the art style is, like, your middle school notebook that you're sketching stuff in while you're not paying attention in class.
Fighting robots and stuff. You have, like, some goofy doodles.
Yeah, so that's the art style of the whole game, and it's like...
But it's 3D.
So there's already some disorientation there, and then you have the problem that because it is truly informed with middle school notebook art, it's not actually good art. So after a while, you just get sick of looking at it because none of it's like well drawn.
I think that game would have benefited immensely from being 2D.
Oh, totally. It would have been great in 2D.
Because I think my biggest problem with the art style of it is that it is shown to us in 3D. Mm-hmm. It makes things look way weirder and less clean and nice.
Also, it has...
You can do shitty-looking art in 2D and have it be charming.
Mm-hmm. There's also a lot going on with the game's HUD.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different, like GIF type pop-ups that come up when you do different kill shots and things like that. That
it's very messy.
Yeah, it seems very messy. And beyond that, people are talking about how like the gameplay is very unpolished. There's
it's funny you mention that too because like that's like there's a big UI problem because there's too much stuff. Persona 5 has stuff popping up on the screen all the goddamn time. But they made it so fucking stylish looking.
It is very stylish.
It doesn't like bug you because it's so like crisp and like cool.
It's actually funny that Drawn to Death and Persona 5 came out the same day.
Because it's like the worst possible presentation and the best possible presentation.
Of like stylized like graphics and layouts.
Yeah. Like Persona 5 is a solid like 11 out of 10 from a design standpoint in that way. And this game's not really doing it.
It's a huge mess. What else? Today we had Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition came out because people cared about that, I guess.
I don't think anybody cared about that.
On the 11th, we have 2 games coming out. Bloodstar Arena, which sounds great, but I have no idea what it is. And Yooka-Laylee comes out then for the Windows, Mac, PS4, Xbone, and NS, which I assume is Nintendo Switch, right?
Yes. It was going to be on the Wii U, but like many other companies, they switched it.
Ha! Ha! After that, I think we have an episode before we talk about anything else, so that should be it.
Yep.
We'll see how Yooka-Laylee goes. I'm a little worried, because I want it to be good.
I do too.
To do well.
I hope I enjoy it, but you never know.
Because those creators, they deserve it.
Well, thank you all for listening. This has been Don't Copy That Floppy.
We've been your hosts, Lex and Dan. We talk about video game news every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That's also right.
Shipit.net. Also, twitch.tv/DCTF Podcast.
Find us on all sorts of social media at DCTF Podcast or Don't Copy That Floppy Podcast.
We got a show archive, which is up on... we got one on YouTube, we got one on Chipit.net, and we've got one on iTunes.
Leave us an iTunes review. It'll help support the show. And if you feel especially generous, you can support the show even more by checking out our Patreon page. We got Patreon backer rewards like voting on the voting stories, sexy voicemails.
You get bonus content every month.
Bonus content every month. We hit a milestone so we could have our Twitch channel. We have other milestones for like videos and things like that. So check it out.
Yeah.
And thank you all very much for listening. So until next week, remember,
don't copy that floppy.